Hello, all. I am live here, LinkedIn Live. This is David Mantica. This is part of the Better Work Project series from SoftEd. We're talking about the career insurance canvas. This is my favorite topic. I'm going to talk about this very passionately because I think it's critical in the face of where the knowledge working environment is going to better prepare ourselves to deal with that volatility. So we're talking about the career insurance canvas. So this is something I made up. So you're going to say, what the heck is this? But when you think about insurance, insurance is protection. It's an investment to protect. And careers, so is your work career. So it's a way to, it's a process and a way to protect your work career. So before we get started and dig into it too deeply, I love questions, love comments, love thoughts, love ideas. Please don't hesitate to share your comments. You can throw them there in the comment field. They do go up as posts, but it adds to the whole, value of this learning experience for those who may watch it later on. So here's my issue. Being reactive is not a plan. I've had I had the pleasure of working with someone in the career placements field since 2013. I've spoken to easily over 100 of his clients. And as John and I always talk about, in most of the cases, the vast majority of cases, they are reacting to something. They're reacting to a layoff. They're reacting to a potential layoff. They're reacting to a manager they don't like. They're reacting to somebody that they don't like within the office, and they're not prepared. There's one thing to make a decision to move on with it when you have had a plan. It's another thing to have to be reactive and it's forced upon you rapidly and you're not prepared. In the vast majority of the case, especially on the layoff side or the downsizing side, folks come to want to speak with others for support because they have no plan. It's a reactive situation. So first and foremost, realizing that our careers are something that we need to plan for and we need to manage. Our career is something that you have to plan for consistently and manage. So we want to know why should you care? Why should you care? What's in it for me? Well, in a lot of cases, everything's in it for you. You have to deal with volatility now in your career. You cannot rely on a traditional expert power base or a traditional information power base to help propel you into a 30, 40-year work career. That expert power base is going to erode. It's going to erode in 3 to 6 year cycles. Your information power base is going to erode in 2 to 5 month cycles. The whole concept of the volatility and complexity that's going on in our rapidly changing environment due to technology changes, cultural changes, likes and dislike changes of our consumer economy, you're going to have this constant and growing VUCA. So in this phase of constant change, you have to do something about it. You have to look at this and say, there must be a reaction. Our career, we have to look at our careers and say the status quo is an invisible killer. If left to our own devices, if we're not planning, we're going to be left behind. Some other data points for you. You'll change your job 12 times now. Look at this. 4.6 year average. The big companies aren't creating jobs. It could take up to 9 weeks to find a job in your position. There's really not much data about when people are looking for jobs outside their industry or looking for jobs in a relevant but different position, let alone a completely different position. And there are a ton of jobs left unfilled because there's a skills gap, because folks have been relying on that expert power base and not adjusting and changing that expert power base. I've been in training now for 30 years. Training lives off of change. I have seen changing cycles and have been involved in those changing cycles. And I have had to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable in those changing cycles, but I see them. And right now, we continue to go through, from an expert power base standpoint, significant changes that are going to erode preset power bases that have been there for a long time. The human side is gigantic. And the sad thing and the challenging thing is I've witnessed this a lot. Unintended career disruption that burns down your retirement. It'll burn down your emergency savings. It'll reduce the overall quality of your life. It'll reduce the overall lifespan you have because of the stress. It'll reduce your overall lifetime compensation potential because it's going to put a hole there. And you might have to get underemployed before you can readjust, and it's tough to get back to where you were. Reduce future productivity because you don't trust. You have well-being issues around psychological safety loss. There's this whole level of discontent that you bring back into the workforce. And with career insurance, what I'm saying is that don't be a victim. Own it. Own the fact that all of us at one point in a time in our careers will be a casualty. And we have to be prepared to be that casualty. So this human side, these unintended consequences of a change can be reduced significantly. And even if it takes time to get the job, you've prepared in advance and understand that you're not what you do. Who you are is not what you do. And you don't build that whole mindset around that, which reduces your ability to be able to adjust, pivot, and change. So again, thoughts or comments, don't hesitate to share them. We're going to talk about career planning. Planning has to be active, not passive. So have you been thinking about your career? When's the last time you thought about your career? Have you been looking at the critical skills within your career and where you want to go? And have you been actively looking at that? You have to drive your belief and mindset that you have to prepare and own this. It's part of your responsibility as a worker and a responsibility to yourself and to your family to be more active in planning for that career as a product. So first step is in career insurance is working on your indispensability. We'll talk about what that means. Indispensability is not going to protect you from a failing company, but indispensability helps keep you during tough times of change, during inflection points within companies. So there's a value attribute here. And in being indispensable, there are some very critical elements associated with it. Then the career insurance number 2, planning for the inevitable. Okay, what are you doing to build out your career plan? What are you doing to build out your personal brand so you have some equity there to showcase when that time comes? Do you have the relationships you need to speed up your career search? Are you planning on and getting the skills you need to take the next steps in your career based on what's coming about with regard to the skills you need, the tools you need, and how are we going to adjust accordingly? I can tell you multiple stories of people stuck in the status quo as invisible killer, getting left behind with their skill set when they finally get disrupted within an organization they've been within. This is usually folks who have worked at organizations 10 plus years, and they have a very specific skill set that is valuable to that organization because of their go-to-market or their operations system, and they've been lulled into a false sense of security. So the career planning mindset. We want to have a growth mindset as we attack our career planning. I can learn. I can adjust. When I get frustrated, I can get through it. I can challenge myself. And the problem here is that we have evolved towards pessimism. We take a pessimistic view at most, if not all, the cases in our lives. So when you go through the job search process, the first step is you're managing your mental health. You've got to focus on value outside of what it is you do. You got to value yourself and the value within that. But you also have to drive this growth mindset. You have to believe that effort will produce results. Positive attitude will produce results. You have to test and try. You have to believe that failing is okay. It's part of the process. And a lot of people aren't taught this growth mindset. They might be taught elements of it in inspiration books or self-help books. But this is you looking at the world through the lens of curiosity, of learning, of experimentation, and the fact that you're inspired when you succeed. Most of us attack the job search from a fixed mindset. I can only do this. This is my only skills. I have to find these people who want these type of skills. These recruiters are people in my network. I can't learn something else. I've never looked for a job in such and such a time period. I can't learn how to find a job. You can learn anything with enough time and enough effort. But you have to adjust and pivot, try, adjust, and a pivot, try, adjust, and a pivot. And realize that you got to regulate your tension to keep you uncomfortable. A lot of times in the job search, I talk about this concept of a runway. How long is your runway? How long is it before you need to bring cash into the family business, aka your household business? So a lot of folks operate instantaneously in that red zone of stress. So there's not a learning opportunity there because you're just too stressed out. So you're mechanically going through the process in that hot red zone of stress with the fixed mindset. When we're at work and we're working is the avoidance section. This is where we get lazy. This is where the status quo is an invisible killer. I was so excited yesterday. I had a call from someone who was going to take on the career insurance mantra. And it started, even though they're comfortable and they're settled in their new job, they're going to start working towards doing things to plan for what might potentially happen. In a good way, though, in a positive way that will help their household health, that will help them grow. But it was awesome because I'm like, yes, that's the career insurance mindset, is don't get so settled that you just get back into your patterns of life. Push yourself to give that time. And that time, you'll see, might be 10 hours a month, might be 5 hours a month. And you have to have what are you going to do with those hours? And remember, when you are actively trying to learn, you have to bring conflict to bear. You have to push yourself to see things from a different perspective. If you can do that, you can start learning things and learning new ways of doing things and keeping yourself open. I'm not going to go to that session because I know all that stuff already. That's not an open mindset. That's not a growth mindset. I'm not going to go there because I don't believe in what they're talking about. You're missing out. You're missing out in finding nuances that you can use to further your growth. And then if things get too hot, there's some techniques you can do to reduce the heat in the system. So those are some of the mindsets. You got to have that growth mindset. You got to understand how to get comfortable being uncomfortable during the process. And from there, actively testing and trying and forcing yourself to look at dissenting voices, forcing yourself to hear different perspectives on different things. Now, part one is this idea of being indispensable. Right now, it's about getting things done. Are you a get things done person? Inside of your organization, do you have a reputation of being a linchpin? Someone who connects, someone who works with other groups, and someone who gets things done. You have a return on your execution. This is very powerful because ultimately what we're trying to do is get things done. Do we want to get things done that have value and purpose and meaning? Yes. But we also want to be seen as someone who actually gets things done. And that can overpower your expert power base significantly if you become that person. Tied to this is the idea that indispensable means you have to be likable. You have to connect with those around you so you can influence them accordingly. So you can be that linchpin. You get things done. A lot of times we have to get things done as a linchpin through influence, but we can't influence if we're not likable. The thing is about being indispensable. It's not about being nice. There's a common thread about likeonomics, this idea, and I did not make this up. There's a likeonomics concept There's books and classes on likeonomics. These 5 elements make you likable. How truthful and transparent are you with respect and authenticity? How do you keep things relevant to what you're trying to achieve at that point in time? Unselfishness. Look, I am doing this for the betterment of all of us. I'm working towards a group goal. Or when you're doing something that has selfish elements to it, being truthful about that. Simplicity. We do complex work, but when we're trying to get things done, we have to make it relevant at a high level for what the purpose, the outcome is going to be. So keep your mindset around explanations simple. And of course, you're doing the dirty work. It's like, I want to know the quality of the sausage and the price of the sausage at one level. I don't want to know how you made the sausage. The only thing I want to do is make sure you made that sausage ethically and legally. And then finally, timing. There's a time and a place for everything. Connecting with people at the right time, giving people space so they can process information. These 5 elements are critical to building a likable presence that allows you to influence, which then makes you indispensable, increases your indispensability. And part of this art of influence is being likable is, are you good at putting people at ease? Can you make people comfortable in situations? And then can you read their body language and their tells so you can stay relevant and you can keep things simple? You can look at how they're acting and reacting and adjust accordingly, especially on the timing front, looking at their body language, whether this is the right time to engage. Being transparent is critical, and doing it respectfully as it relates to things you're seeing and how you're seeing them. Influencers and likable people bring solutions and ideas to the table. And then finally, you don't want to be a manipulator or a strategy person. The art of influence in likeonomics ties to execution. Indispensable people execute. They execute through others because they have a likable element to them. And likable is not about being nice. And this ties back to your EQ, your understanding of managing yourself, your understanding of managing the situation. To do that, you have to have an understanding of self so that you can self-manage. Then you have to be aware of the situation around you. Then you can do situational management. Growth in career happens significantly more for people who have a high EQ over those who have a high IQ. High IQ folks who use that as their expert power base just continue to get eroded and then strike back out of fear because they're seeing the erosion of that power base they've used with their intelligence, instead of building off that intelligence and building their emotional quotient to work with others to make things happen. So we have to realize that emotional quotient, the ability to self-understand, to self-manage, to situationally understand, to situationally manage, is a key success factor associated with growth in your career and staying indispensable. And then as it relates to the power bases, I've talked about those power bases a bit. Here it's about the referent power base. That's the power base of indispensable people. Getting things done, paying it forward, sharing information, being supportive. It's those elements that become a foundational piece for departments and divisions and teams. We all know these type of people, and we can see why they're indispensable. And ultimately, they'll be the last to go or they'll be the first to leave, depending on how comfortable they are within the given situation. So part of this indispensable is beating learned helplessness, and then having the psychological safety to contribute in a positive way through voicing your concerns, being able to provide conflict to try to drive creative growth, within the department, within the organization, but accepting when those things don't happen, and also having the confidence to know that at any point, if disruption occurs, you're prepared for it. All right. Any comments, questions, or thoughts? Don't hesitate to share. The real critical piece of this is preparing for the inevitable. So, do you know what your career product is right now? What is your value? How do you increase the value? Within your technology space or your career space, where is that at? Is it, and you look at the product S curve, is it really at the early stages? Is it like a cash cow, which means it's old and mature? And then you have to realize that where you're at in that curve increases your likelihood of potential disruption. And what changes do you need to make in order to ensure that you're not going to get disrupted in your career because of where you're at? What investment in training, what investment in coaching, what investment in resume development, what investment in time for networking and working with people. You should be networking all the time, not networking just when you're looking for a job. What are your career value propositions? What are some of those elements beyond your expert power base that you bring to the table? And who are the companies? Who are the individuals within those companies that would hire you now and in the future? So who would those people be? And are you communicating with those people? Do you have a relationship with those people? So your career changes and adjusts. You have an element of expertise in what it is that you do, and then you have an element of how you get things done, and showing that and being able to communicate that and growing that and being able to deal with a disruption that impacts where you're going. Disruption that impacts also where you're at. So you want to know what your career goals are. So connecting your goals to your current profession and then tying that back to where you want to go. Where do you want to be? Oh, I'd like to be in this industry running this type of team, or I'd like to be in this industry coding this way and working on these type of projects. So first and foremost, as it relates to knowledge workers that work in business-to-business environments or knowledge workers that work in business-to-consumer environments, LinkedIn is the place. You could do a whole 2 hours just on let's go through what you need to be doing on LinkedIn. Your profile updates, how you're communicating yourself. Recommendations, are people seeing that the value of you through those recommendations? Endorse for skills. How are you posting? When are you posting? Have you shared posts? Have you written an article? Are you in groups? So that LinkedIn piece is really important because that extends your resume. That extends your resume to see proof that you do those things. See proof that you think that way. Articles show proof that you think that way. Posts can set directed content where you operate in that way. Or maybe tools, maybe you're blogging and you're sending people to those blogs. Maybe you're writing white papers and doing podcasts or doing LinkedIn Lives to help build out your brand. There might not be anyone on this LinkedIn Live, but still it's going to be there on LinkedIn for someone who's looking at me and seeing what my value could be for an organization. So it's there. A blog is there. And if 5 people read the blog, it's still there. And you can showcase it. You can direct people to it. Also, this idea of presenting, of getting your voice out there, getting opportunities to showcase your talent. The trade association involvement is so critical. Its ability to build new skills in the leadership team, its ability to connect with people. It's a huge vehicle for networking. Internal and external coaching and mentoring, that builds your brand. And then you want to build a team that can become your personal board of advisors. 3 or 4 people that you connect with on a consistent basis, and it helps provide you feedback and helps inspire you occasionally to get out of that yellow zone I talked about, or help you if you're in that red zone. So building this personal brand, ultimately driving back to that trade association piece, and how are you using that trade association to build skills that you need for the future? And what is your skill building pathway going forward as it relates to preparing for the inevitable? So when we look at recruiters and networking, you can get a job through posting for posts, responding to posts. You get a job through recruiters. You get a job through networking. Recruiters hire you for what you have done. Networking can find you opportunities about who you are and where you want to go. Networking takes time. Networking should be done consistently and constantly, regardless of whether you have a job or not. Relationships with recruiters should be nurtured even if you have a job. And that doesn't mean annoying them constantly. It's about staying connected, giving them value back, letting them know what's going on with you, because you are part of the conduit for them making money. But they're not, in a lot of cases, they're not going to go out on a limb to put you into something that you haven't done yet. But through networking, you can build a reputation within that can carry people through to see the opportunity for you in something that you might not have done before. This makes us uncomfortable. Networking is not about the promotional machine or uncomfortable small talk. Networking is about building a relationship with someone, learning from someone, and then getting connected with others that you can learn from and they can grow from, with the ultimate goal of seeing if you can have a network group out of one person up to 20 people you connected off of one person in a specific area you want to learn or grow within. And as people are aware of you, not just because you sent a post out on LinkedIn that you're looking for a job, but they're invested in you because you've asked for their help and you ask for their ideas and you ask for their coaching. So that's part of it. And then you offer up and share things that you can help them with as well. But it's a relationship. It's not a relationship that shouldn't be happening every day. But as you build these relationships, connecting with folks on a once or twice a year basis, depending on if they're part of your personal board of directors, you want to connect more consistently. But if not, you have that first level of networking groups that you want to stay connected with, because they're going to remember you when opportunities pop up. You connect with people who you know, and then they start connecting you with new people you don't know, but it's warm connections. And it's connections that are relevant to what you're trying to do. People want to give back. People want to pay it forward. That's the key. If you're attacking the networking as it relates to learning, as it relates to understanding something, and not just asking for a job, that's the win strategy with regard to networking. You start with people you know, and then slowly those people introduce you to people that you might have a secondary knowledge of, and then those people introduce you to brand new people. And as you start meeting those brand new people, there's where you have a wellspring of opportunities will begin to pop up, especially if they like you. And that likeonomics comes to how you are doing those 5 elements as part of your networking. Are you trustworthy? Are you relevant? Do you keep things simple? Is your timing impeccable as it relates to the relationship? And are you keeping yourself unselfish? You're not just greedily trying to get something from these folks. So options for a proactive investment. This is talking about career coach, a career mentor, this personal board of directors, getting involved in trade associations, ones that are current state and others that are future state. Money for learning. You set aside money for learning so you can start looking at ways to build the skills, especially the expert skills you need to have for the future. You spend time on those recruitment relationships, which could include breakfast or lunch meetings. You're building content. And then you're offering yourself up to coach pro bono in specific areas that you're trying to grow in. Well, I'm not sure if I have any questions, but ultimately it comes back to building a canvas where you can build out some of these preparing yourself elements and look at managing a 5, 7, 10 hour a month strategy to do those things, building content, presenting, connecting with trade associations, attending courses, networking, meeting with people on a consistent basis to stay relevant. So when the thing happens, you're prepared to turn on that network, to turn on those recruitment relationships, to highlight the new skills you've had. Because even if you're doing this, you can be displaced unexpectedly, but you're going to come off of a much stronger base in your attack than you would if you didn't do these things. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.